Everyone uses the word in shidduchim, chemistry. I don't know if you've ever heard that word being thrown around, chemistry. Please define that word.
I guess it's the give and take between a couple, between two people, how they relate to each other, if they find each other engaging, interesting, personable, exciting.
We just had it today. I had a guy and a girl that went out last night, and they both called me back, and they had no chemistry. It was one date. They said, usually, like, you're okay with us not going on a second date. I always say you have to go on a second date unless something really bad happened. I said, there's zero chemistry, zero potential. You don't enjoy each other's company. You don't feel like you have conversation to make at all. You feel like you're stretching it the whole way. I would say chemistry is sort of like a getting along with somebody. Chemistry is different than attraction. A lot of times people confuse the two. They say, oh, chemistry, attraction. Yeah, like when you're with the person, you really enjoy it. I said, no. I said, as a female working at, in a school, I work with other people. I'm in classrooms. There's teachers that you have better chemistries with than others. Males have this, alongside with males. So chemistry is where's my Google definition? I'll look it up really quickly. No. So when I would say what is chemistry? Chemistry is a sort of, it's a zing that you get like when the two of you are together, and like it flows, it works, it goes together. Sometimes chemistry takes time to build because it takes trust. It takes really being comfortable with the person who you're with for you to be yourself, for them to be themselves, so you can see if you have a real chemistry before you cut it too early. But there has to be some give and take, some flow, some electricity, something that pulls the two of you, that when you're around the other person, you're enjoying and appreciating who you are and who they are in some capacity. And it has to be well reciprocated. It has to work both ways.
Okay. I think that the word chemistry is very relative. Sometimes it can mean connection. Sometimes it can mean a spark. Sometimes it can mean attraction. I think that it varies with the individual. And when a single will tell me, I think that it has something to do with chemistry, I'll ask them to define that for me. Like, I want to know, what does the word chemistry mean to you?
If you would tell singles one piece of dating advice, besides for just be yourself, what piece of advice would you say?
That's an interesting question. I would say to be open-minded. I would say give the person a chance. It's the first time you're meeting. They're nervous, you're nervous. It's a job interview in a sense. Everyone's nervous on a job interview. Just go in with an open mind and look for on the first date, look for the positive things. Later on, look for the red flags. But on the first date, go in with an open mind and look for the good things.
Well, let's talk right now on the date. I think I would say that they really need to listen to the other person. Yeah, I remember talking to a girl after a date. She said she's not going out again because he just talked and she could not get a word in edgewise. Clearly, he was not interested in learning about her or finding anything about. So I think that the ability to actively listen and to listen and to engage when listening is critical, so that the person thinks or recognizes that you really are interested in what they have to say. Probably that piece of advice is even beforehand in terms of listening to whether it's the shadchan or your mentor or friend has to say, not to be closed. You think you know what you want, but if you're willing to hear what somebody has to say, you might realize that there's a broader world out there than you thought. Or a better world out there, I should say. So, it's part of communication, but I think the listening piece is something we need to think about.
I would tell singles to, that's such a hard question. Oh, man. You're talking about when they're on a date, or are you talking about in general? Because those are two different questions.
You could choose which one. Which one do you have better advice for?
So I think that the most important thing to remember about dating is that, and we all know this, is that it is from Hashem, and that Hashem can change anything in a moment, and that the best thing I think to do is to not focus on dating, but focus on your life and enjoy your life. And I firmly believe that a happy person is a more attractive person. And we want to be around people who are full of life and enjoy life and are relatively happy people. And so I think that the more that you can invest in yourself and invest in your life and make your life full and complete, the more you have to offer to another person, which therefore makes you a much more attractive human being.
Yeah. Is it okay to date two people at the same time? For example, if you have a date set up for Sunday night with one person and then let's say Tuesday night with somebody else.
So I actually had a young man call me from Canada, from the East Coast, and he wanted to come to the West Coast, and he has a job, and so he wanted to get in as many dates as possible with as many different people as possible. And I really discouraged him and told him that I couldn't set him up that way. I feel like if you have somebody Monday night and Tuesday night and Wednesday night, you're not going to look for all the good in the Monday night person, because you're always thinking, well, there's Tuesday night and maybe she has something that Monday night didn't. And I also feel like he didn't maybe do enough research into the people. If you do a good amount of research, then you need to try to make a commitment to make this work. It's not just dating as many people as possible. And at some point people have to make commitments in life. And so maybe committing to giving this individual a chance is important. But I did really feel for him flying from the East Coast. Still, I think it wasn't in his best interest. So,
my personal feeling is the whole world has changed. Everything has changed. And because of Corona, there's so many more opportunities. And now that people are dating across the United States and they're like not even thinking about it, they're much calmer about using Zoom. Everybody got used to it. Then you know what? Then you really can date one person at a time. You know, it used to be you're flying in, you're spending all that money. I kind of understand if you want to, you have to, you get set up with a few people, I get it. I mean, you're spending money, you're spending time, you want to but here with Zoom and this new, with the technology we have today, there's just no reason for it. There's no reason. You can go out with someone, you're in California, they're in New York. Let's do it. Let's set them up over Zoom. And I've been doing it because, we have people in Toronto, they can't fly, they can't come back. And okay, a lot of people it's not ideal, but it's the new wave, the wave of the future. You know what I mean?
Well, let me ask you this. How many Zoom dates do you think a person can comfortably have before they get stuck at a certain point and then they really have to kind of move forward, either meeting in person or what?
I think 2.
2 dates.
Max. Yeah. I had a couple going out. They did, I think, 3, and it was getting real, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. But then again, I have a friend, a guy that I had been working with who texted me that he got engaged, and he did most of the dating over Zoom. I was shocked, 6 or 7, whatever. And then they met, so I guess there's no rule. Of course, it's
Leora. I'm sorry, Leora, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think that a lot of times in dating, we try to have these universal rules. Always do this, never do this. Everyone should do the following. Nobody should do the following. I think that we have to take a look at this on an individual level. Some guys and some girls, they can or will, and they do, date more than one person at a time. It's not common. It's not what most people do. But there are some people that this is how they do. When they fly in from out of town or from far away, they want 2 or 3 things lined up. And I think it depends. I've had guys say to me, do you think it's okay to date more than one person at a time? And I said, well, how do you feel about it? Do you have the emotional capacity? Do you get emotionally attached? Are you going to go on one date and be like, oh, I wonder if the next one's better? Because if that's who you are, then you really shouldn't be dating more than one person. Or let them figure out that they'll come to the conclusion, yeah, I probably shouldn't date more than one because I'm not the type. And there are other people that are a little more cerebral about it. And because they're not doing so much research, they're actually giving more girls a chance. That had they been doing so much research into them, maybe they would have said no. So I think it really depends on the person, and that each person should seek out their own individual guidance, and that we can't make these absolute rules. I know a gentleman who told me that he had a few dates lined up, and I said, listen, as long as you remember the girl's name, her story, her family, you don't mix her up with the other girl. If you call her Shandel, her name is Faggy. I mean, that's bad, So you have to keep track, but I think it really depends on the individual and on the situation. If a guy lives in Brooklyn and he's dating 3 girls at once who live around the corner, there's absolutely no excuse for that. And I agree with Charney 100%. There's so much access to dating a person and to getting to know them at this point that, why do you have to date so many people at once? Even if you're coming in, maybe have 1 or 2 Zoom dates ahead of time. And then revisit it when you're in the area. There's other ways of handling this than these absolutes.
So I think it's a very particular, it depends, because it just depends on the situation. There are certain situations where someone might be traveling from one place to another. And I think in that situation, it could be okay. Let's say someone lives on one side of the world traveling to another. I think it might be okay, to try to make the most of their time. But if someone is local and there's not really a reason to be doing it, I don't think that it's, I really don't think it's the right thing. It's very confusing. Sometimes people think it's better, I could get 2 in 1. But I just think that it really confuses and messes with your emotions.
Well, in general, I don't recommend it. I've made 2 shidduchim at least where that was going on. And one of them, I remember, was one of the first ones I made about maybe 15, 16 years ago. And she actually went on 4 dates with both of them before she picked the guy I set her up with. And I was literally plotting, going out of my mind. She was from San Diego and she went to New York, and it was and she was really weighing both sides, and it made me insane, but she did pick my guy. And then I actually did that with my husband. Don't tell him. But there was this one guy, I don't know exactly what happened. And it was very clear contrast when I went out with the other guy that he was absolutely not for me and my husband was. So I guess you couldn't compare and contrast. I would say in general, no. In general, no. But if you're traveling, it sometimes happens for 1 or 2 dates.
Do you think you could make allowances for someone's age? Like if somebody is 21 and dating, or somebody is 28 and dating?
Yeah, I think for someone much younger, it's definitely not a good idea. But for someone who took off work, perhaps, or, if I feel the person has a certain level of seichel and can separate, maybe. I don't think in general it's a good idea. No, I do not. But it happens sometimes, and usually it gets you mixed up and you can't remember who said what, and you say the wrong thing and you end up both.
Or if he traveled to Chicago and he's stuck there and you don't know for sure it's going to work, and then something came up, maybe he should just meet them.
Yeah, I mean, you could end up both of them breaking up with you because you got them mixed up, and then you kind of, it just recently happened with someone I know. She's 60 and someone was coming to meet her in Chicago, and he was just ridiculous. He told her he was coming to meet someone else as well. So she said, well, just don't bother coming. Okay.
That's really.
So I don't know. I don't think it's such a good idea.